The pen was one of the first tools that took human memory out of the body and placed it onto paper. A mark, a sign, a stroke, and the word began to remain not only as sound, but in material form. This was the simplest, yet the most powerful way for a word to survive over time. If the pen had not existed, how would debt have existed? When words were spoken and forgotten, how could economic relations have continued? The pen stabilized memory. The word did not vanish. It turned into writing. Writing, in turn, extended trust. Even if a person disappeared, what was written remained. The economy stood precisely on this permanence. This is not a historical question, but a fundamental economic one, because its answer reveals that trust, debt, contracts, the banking system, and modern finance all emerged from a single line. Without that line, the scale of civilization as we know it would not have been possible. Before the pen, memory was the only archive. If there was debt, two people remembered it. If one of them died, half of the debt died with them. If one forgot, a dispute began. If one lied, it was impossible to find proof. This rule worked in small communities. Everyone knew each other. Liars gained a bad reputation. The concept of honor created a balanced system. But when communities grew, trade expanded, and debt arose between strangers, this system began to collapse. You could not rely on the honor of a stranger. Social pressure no longer had an effect. Death could erase debt. Finance, in order to grow, needed a more stable and durable method than human memory. At that point, the pen emerged. The word turned into writing, and memory began to live not only inside the brain, but on paper. In the 34th century BCE, in the city of Uruk, by the banks of the Euphrates River, an official pressed a series of marks into a damp clay tablet. These marks are the first written economic record in the world. There was no poetry there, no philosophy, no love. There were only numbers. How many jars of barley arrived? How many were given out? How many remained? That tablet was an accounting report. The first written document in human history was not a work of art, but a balance sheet. Writing was invented not for literature, but for finance. The pen entered the world not as the tool of a poet, but as the tool of an accountant. The impact of this innovation did not take long. Debt written on a tablet was no longer bound to the memory of two people. It became a real document that could be stored, transported, and if necessary, presented in court. This third party allowed an heir to take the document and claim what was owed even if the lender died. When the borrower denied it, the writing answered. When disputes arose, memory no longer played the role. The archive did. Memory first moved to clay, then to papyrus, parchment, paper, and today to digital systems. Forms changed, but the purpose did not. To make debt live longer than a human lifetime. Writing became a shield that protected debt against time. The Sumerian temple economy brought this system to a revolutionary scale. The temple was not only a place of worship, it was the largest financial institution in the region. Grain was lent, interest was collected, land was leased, payments were recorded, workers were paid, and everything was written on clay tablets. Archaeological excavations have uncovered tens of thousands of such tablets from Sumerian cities. These tablets form the world's first contract archive. The intellectual root of modern contract law lies in those clay tablets. The concept of interest gained power through writing. In the oral era, interest could be calculated, but tracking it over long periods and applying compound interest was almost impossible. When the pen appeared, interest was written onto paper, could be calculated, and was applied precisely. Disputes decreased because the numbers were visible. The presence of upper limits on interest in Sumerian law texts showed that interest had become widespread. State intervention was a sign that the system had grown. At the foundation of this mechanism stood a simple truth. Writing. The Code of Hammurabi pushed this history even further. In 1754 BCE, laws were carved into stone pillars. Debt terms, interest ceilings, and penalties for contract violations were put into written form. An unwritten law exists in the judge's discretion, but a written law can be applied to everyone. This equality accelerated economic activity. Knowing the law made it possible to calculate risk. When risk could be calculated, investment became possible, and markets grew. Egyptian papyrus turned writing into economic power. This light, portable surface capable of storing large amounts of information made long-distance contracts possible. Trade no longer occurred only in marketplaces, but also within letters. Writing material became a strategic resource. The Phoenicians democratized writing with the alphabet. Writing was removed from state monopoly. Merchants and artisans could keep their own accounts. The pen passed into the hands of the masses. In medieval Europe, church archives became document treasuries. Whoever held the document wrote the rules. Here the pen was not merely a tool, but power. Italian merchant banks brought this power into the secular world. Bills of exchange made international payments possible without transporting physical money. This system rested on the reliability of the signature. The signature was the trace of the pen. The power of the Medici Bank lay in its double-entry bookkeeping system. Balances could be checked, fraud decreased, trust increased. The telegraph accelerated this power. Then came the telephone, the internet, and instant messaging. Technology changed, but the core function did not. The transmission of written information. The modern financial system is a vast writing mechanism. A balance is a number. A credit transaction is a record. A contract is a written document. There is no difference in principle between the mark in Uruk and today's digital systems. However, this system also strengthened inequality. Literacy was required to read written contracts. Illiteracy became the basis of exploitation. Medieval peasants signed documents they did not understand. This problem continues today in a different form. The pen is neither good nor bad. It amplifies existing power relations. The strong write the document. The weak sign it. Without the pen, debt was a fragile thing bound to the memory of two people. When the pen arrived, words became documents. Documents became systems. And systems became the economic foundation of civilization. What made all of this possible was a single line. Behind that line stood a human desire to remember what was said, to reclaim what was given, to preserve existence beyond time. The pen became the physical form of this need. The financial system is the result of this 5,000-year-old answer.